pleasant good evening. This is your handsome host, S.K.A. Obasi, welcoming you back to our community of curated works written by yours truly. I trust that this episode finds you in good spirits, ready for another narration of Army of Sin. Today's episode is titled Valentine's Day Blues. As is our little tradition, we do one shoulder roll backwards before diving into the thick of it. Trinidad, present day. Roses, chocolates, and momentary pledges of affection aside, Valentine's Day sucked the smelliest of feet. Couples acted as if this was some socially accepted holiday, one day out of the 365, sometimes 66, on which to spoil their significant other. Wrand Mattend couldn't wait for civilization to return to the norm of petty bickering and slammed phones. February 14th was way overrated, he thought, jaw clenched as his finger tenderly traced the wallet-sized photograph. Valentine's Day was the mother of all clusterfucks. Beyond his door, alongside the cool concrete of the guest house, past the swimming pool separating the modern wing of the building, two couples begged to differ. One couple sat lounging on the plush black leather love seat, a television in the background providing ambient music, though their attention was not locked on each other. Instead, they stared fixedly at two other people who presented a cozy picture of culinary bliss, though they were merely the best of friends. Hey, big head, you mind getting the way ahead of you? Aya DeVille replied, resting the platter of baked meat covered in foil atop the designated cooling tray. What would you do without me? She teased. Live, duh, Liam Mattend replied, pure confusion stamped on his face. Making a monkey face behind his back, Aya drew a cutting board from the top level of the cabinet. She paused on her way down from the top of the stepladder, feeling the weight of curious eyes. Looking over her shoulder, Aya caught not one, but two pairs of eyes on her. That of her date, Ian, and Liam's date. Something also beginning with an I or something. Was it? Was it Ingrid? Sticking her tongue out at her date, lounging on the couch, she took the 2 steps down, taking her time on each step as she enjoyed the flash of admiration that accompanied Ian's hot gaze. Turning her mind away from the distraction of her date, she came to stand next to her childhood friend, Liam. Reaching over the rise and fall of his wrist as it skillfully diced onions. You're in my way, she said, grabbing 3 of the large tomatoes to be used in the fresh salad and proceeding to join the cutting party. Carefully lose one of those fingers, Liam murmured beneath his breath. No change in his rhythmic cutting. It'd be the last thing you do, she fired back, just as conspiratously. Liam looked up at that moment, eyes catching those of his date burning a hole in his chest. Winking at her, he dusted his hands off the remnants of onions. Before adding them to the preheated frying pan. Grabbing the bottle of Selfridge's Malbec 2010, he sauntered over from behind the waist-high counter, the apron he wore doing nothing to dampen the pure masculinity of his gait. eyes tracing the blush stealing up the creamy expanse of Iris's neck. He saw that she never broke eye contact, a willing participant in this game of sensuality. Can I interest you in a refill, babe? Not trusting her voice at the moment, Iris simply nodded from her seat and held up her glass. Any for you, Ian? No thanks, bro. More for me, Liam replied dryly. Turning away from the guests, he made his way back to the large stove, the aroma of perfectly sauteed onions perfuming the air. Liam knew this peaceful interlude would not last. The tension set across Ian's shoulders a dead giveaway that he was not fond of the proximity Liam and Aya shared. It made no difference. In the equation that was Aya Deville's life, Liam and his brother Rand were the only constants. Liam's lashes drifted down as his mouth opened to a haunting rendition of the weekend's Losers, which drifted through the speakers of this venue called Zen Nightclub, or something like that. Sadly, the excitement which once accompanied performing in a new venue had died a long time ago. Shoving the memory of the previous year's Valentine's Day brunch to the back of his mind, he opened himself up to the microphone, his dreamy baritone flittering through the room. Women clenched their thighs together to ease the sudden ache his vocals inspired. Men unconsciously rearranged themselves as their blood flow headed south. Only one man showed no response. Rand stood to the right of the stage, his back facing Liam and his performance as his eyes scanned the crowd, senses on alert for any threat of violence. Lady Zenobia stood directly beneath the air vent at the back of the nightclub. The only light glowed softly from a single burgundy bulb. Her eyes traced the uncoordinated movements of the clearly intoxicated, mini-skirted woman making an effort to climb the pole that stood in the middle of the VIP booth. What ridiculous garb, Lady Zenobia thought to herself, lip curling in a sneer at the fake diamonds adorning the metallic silver of the skirt. Dismissing the woman who appeared to be having the time of her short life, Zenobia refocused on her quarry. This one holds power, she thought to herself, as she observed his hunched stance, fists wrapped tightly around the microphone, vocal cords in stark relief as he sang. Only Lady Zenobia's inner eye could discern the tendrils of violet smoke as they rose from where Liam stood, curling through the audience, enshrouding men and women alike whose eyes glazed over with desire. She remembered when she had inspired such lust, coveted by prince and peasant alike, men willing to gut each other if it meant winning her favor. A whisper of hands running up and down her semi-corporeal arms snapped her out of her thrall. Looking down, she discovered that 3 tendrils of the seductive violet smoke had already made their way through her outer form. Lady Zenobia crushed them in her fist. Shaking off the ghost of unwanted emotion, she spared one final look at her quarry. For a fraction of a second, before she embraced her full shadow form for passage back through the air duct, Lady Zenobia could have sworn the man stationed, unflinching with his back to the stage, had locked eyes on her now invisible form. To be continued. I do hope you enjoyed this first episode of Army of Sin. I know some of you probably want to know what happened to that youth that got stabbed? You're gonna just have to stick around to find out. Until next time, and as always, love and light.